Hey, John Gilroy here. If you look up the word extreme in the dictionary, it's defined as going above and beyond. Well, let's find what Extreme Networks is all about. Hit the music, Manny. Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, the podcast that connects you to federal technology leaders. My name is John Gilroy, and I will be your moderator. Our guest today is Dan DeBacker. He is Senior Vice President for Product Management at, we called it Extreme Networks. So it's going to be an extremely good interview and an extremely bad interview, Dan. What we got cooking here?
Oh, John, it's definitely going to be extremely good. And you're
Good, good,
absolutely
good.
right. Extreme is not just the name of our company, but it's really the attitude that we have. So very excited to be here and talk to you today.
Yeah, I've dealt with companies like Xgility and some strange names. And so what I always do is type in how they come up with their name. It says right there in the interwebs, it says, yeah, they want to go above and beyond for the customers. I said, well, hey, what about our federal customers? So toss to you, Dan. So how can your company go above and beyond for my govies sitting out there beating their head against the wall with all these stupid regulations they got to worry about?
John, there's so much going on and the market's moving so fast. It's kind of funny that, many years ago, the network was the most important thing. Then the network just became the plumbing. It was all about the applications. And now we've come full circle where the network is absolutely critical to everyone's business, especially all of our federal customers. This is the lifeline for their businesses. Now, that being said, there's also a lot of things we have to think about. How do we deploy it? How do we manage it? How do we secure it? I think when you think about networking and security, those things now are intersecting. You can't have one without the other. And then we throw on the most important thing that's happening in the industry, AI. You cannot have a conversation that doesn't either begin or end with AI. And so really what we're looking at is the intersection of networking, security, and AI. How do we bring those things together along with a much easier way to deploy, manage, and operate networks? That's what we're all about here.
My wife is a Latin teacher, so I get to use fancy words. And so, go back in a time capsule 20 years and the word is moribund. It was like, yeah, it's a network. It's a wire that goes from there to there. What's the problem? In fact, I had people tell me that managing a router is like managing a refrigerator. Just plug it in, man. Remember that? You've heard people say that, haven't you, Dan?
Absolutely, absolutely. It was so easy. It was so simple. But ironically, if you think about that, how many years ago we had all these different protocols and all these different types of networks to manage and to understand and to operate. And now we've all centered around one way to do things, which is great. But it really becomes more on what can the network do? What does it do for the customers? How does it make them more efficient? How does it become a strategic advantage and not just the plumbing?
So I went to your website because I'm so sophisticated. I looked at a bunch of your blog posts and went to YouTube, saw a bunch of videos, and here's three topics that my listeners want to know about. They don't care about, car dealerships in Phoenix. They don't care about those folks. They care about the federal government. And so how can you guys, improve network security? I mean, what's your offering? How can that be done through Extreme Networks?
Yeah, John, it's a great question, great subject. When one of the things that we have done over the course of many years and through the acquisitions that we've made over the past several years is really solidify the network infrastructure and really have centered that around a network fabric. So we have a very unique campus network fabric, unique to the industry. The way it works, the way it operates, the simplicity of it, but one of the most important things, the security of it. So we talk a lot about stealth networking and the fact that the network is secure by design. So without even worrying about doing network access control or zero touch network access or firewalls or anything of that nature, just by its inherent design, the network is secure. So you're starting from a much higher base level with us than with all of our competition worldwide.
I tell you, Dan, when you said the word firewall, I flashed back 20 years. It used to be a physical piece you'd carry into the server room and plug it in. I mean, my son doesn't even, she doesn't believe that. That's no way. Yeah, that's what a firewall was. No, it was a physical piece. It was incredible. And so, when it comes to networking, a key phrase that comes up is visibility or identifying what's on the network. And I think this is one of your strengths. A whole idea of when you said stealth network, well, how do you know you have a stealth network? Isn't that the next question?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it comes in many phases, right? When you think about the whole life cycle of the network, first I have to design, then I have to deploy, then I have to really operate and manage. And so when you think about it, from our perspective, the design deploy in the full life cycle, that's about 5%. The operate and manage, that's 95% of the life cycle. So you build it and you build it one time, and yes, you may expand and change and things of that nature, but you operate it forever. And so the ability to have that type of view into the network, the visibility, how is the network performing? What are the services that are running across my network? Where are my users? Not only from just a standard operations, but of course, when you got to troubleshoot. So when I troubleshoot a problem, right, the first thing that happens, oh, it's the network's fault. So we
Yeah.
we jokingly talk about how do you reduce the mean time to innocence? How do you reduce that time to say, guess what? The network's operating fine. It's an application issue or it's an end device issue, right? And of course, it could be a network problem. Not saying that the network's never at fault, but a lot of times that is actually not the case. So having views and visibility into the network to know how it's running, to see what's going on, to quickly troubleshoot, isolate issues, that's a major, major concern for all of our customers, and it's a strength that we have here at Extreme.
I'm going to the well one more time with this 20-year analogy. So this will be the last time I'm up three times here. But 20 years ago, you just worried about physical wired networks. Now we got to worry about wireless networks. And as you're speaking, I'm jotting down wireless networks. And you can't see this in the Zoom call, but I can see Dan. He's got his little fancy lad jacket on there with the NFL logo on it. And so I guess you guys got a story to tell about the NFL, don't you? Now that was not a big topic in this town for the last 20 years. All of a sudden, we're interested in the NFL. So why you got us thinking NFL on your little nerd jacket there, Dan?
Well, John, it's all about wireless. You're right. All of our customers, whether they're federal customers, enterprise customers, customers anywhere around the world, they're all taking a wireless first design.
Wait,
So
well,
yes,
well, you know what? You know what? I didn't hit record. No, I did. No, it's recording. I'm sorry. I have to. The interface changed on Zoom, and the recording button's not in the top anymore. It's on the bottom, and I thought I didn't have it. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry. We'll that out. I
not
always
a problem.
I watch to see if I'm recording, and it didn't have one on the top, but it's on the bottom now. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
No, no worries, no worries, no worries. So, so our customers are all taking a wireless first mentality. You're right. 20 years ago, it was about running a Cat 5 cable and plugging that into the NIC card, and I was tethered to my desk. Well, now, depending on where you're at, actually independent of where you're at, it's all about wireless. So whether you're sitting at home, whether you're in a Starbucks, if you're at an NFL stadium, if you're in an office complex, wireless is now becoming the medium and the way to connect. And one of the things that's happened recently that have really unlocked the potential is 6 gigahertz. 6 gigahertz has been a game changer for wireless. It increases the amount of bandwidth available and it makes Wi-Fi usable across an entire spectrum. So yes, very proud of our relationship with the NFL. When you go into any stadium, be it NFL, NHL, MLB, soccer, you name it, any type of sports venue, it's always a challenge if you're trying to connect on 5G because you've got 50,000 or 100,000 other people trying to do the same thing at the same time. So the ability to now provide wireless access inside the venues, first of all, the user experience becomes second to none. But what's the benefit for the venue? Well, now the venue can track users. They can see what's going on. They can figure out from point of sale that, we have flows of traffic that we need to optimize. They know exactly. And now we can actually report back like which concession line is the shortest line that I need to go to. So a lot of intrinsic value is brought from a wireless perspective. Now, again, that's from a venue's perspective, and I understand that's very niche. But when we look at all of our other customers the ability to have analytics and understand what's going on with wireless, absolutely critical. So we do a wireless design, we put it into a building, then we reconfigure the building. We put up new walls, and all of a sudden the wireless design is out the window. So now we have to have the real-time capabilities to see what's going on, heat mapping, to know because the infrastructure changes all the time, right? 20 years ago, we didn't have to worry about it. We ran a cable. That cable didn't move. Nothing changed. It was all the same. Wireless, now it all changes. So now couple that with what I just talked about on visibility. Now I'm walking around, I'm on my phone, I'm on my laptop, I have a wireless issue, right? Go back to that mean time to innocence. Where's the problem? Is the problem in the access point? Is the problem in the backend network? Is the problem with the device? And so one of the things that we've done, partnering with our friends at Intel, we now have the ability to look at the traffic from the user's perspective, from that NIC card, that wireless NIC perspective. Couple that with the visibility that we have inside the network, take AI, correlate those two things, and all of a sudden now I know exactly what the problem is, where it is, and how to remedy that issue. Absolutely
Because
critical for us moving forward.
yeah, I mean, we talked about stealth networking earlier, and how can you discover a stealth network? It could be within the wired network or the wireless network, and increasingly, it's not only wireless, but it's going to be on a phone wireless and moving, so it's going to be a dynamic network. Speaking of dynamic problem, there's one problem that many of the federal agencies have that's not very dynamic. It's called legacy systems. And so, can you help the federal government modernize their legacy systems?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest challenges is the fact that we live in a world of brownfield. We don't live in the world of greenfield that much. Yes, there are new buildings being built and we get to do things from scratch and get to do it the right way from the very beginning. But a vast majority, all of our customers have brownfield. How do I migrate from an existing technology to a new technology? What are the benefits of doing that? And everyone cringes when you talk about, oh, I have to upgrade. Oh, that's such a lot of work. And so the tools that we provide really allow and help from a migration perspective. So we understand that it's a multi-vendor world that we live in. We provide management solutions that can actually manage what we call third-party networks, third-party devices, because a migration doesn't happen overnight. A migration happens over weeks, months, maybe even years. So now you have to live in that multi-vendor environment. I got to have a way to manage and see the old. I have to also manage and see the new and then transition between the two. So we don't put this all on our customers to do this all by themselves, but instead we help do that with the tools that we provide to really try to reduce some of that friction when you have to do those upgrades.
Going above and beyond. Yeah, if you want to pursue more information about this, we got more questions for Dan, but I just want to make people, if they're out walking the dog or something, you can, of course, go to extremenetworks.com and get blog entries. There's a whole section on the federal government. We know that. But if you want to be quick, just go to YouTube and type in Extreme. And I found out they have 17,000 subscribers. So, Dan, you must be, I don't know what you're doing, little dance routines or something on the YouTube, or you have a lot of information there. These people are really serious about some of the topics they handle, aren't they? I mean, this is some serious stuff, man.
Oh, absolutely. We're very passionate about what we do. We pride ourselves in being a peer play networking provider. We're focused on networking, right? And that doesn't mean that we're excluding security. Absolutely not. We're bringing security into this. But our focus and what we want to accomplish is very, very clear amongst everyone within the organization. And I always like to say that we're big enough to matter, but we're small enough to be nimble and to be able to adjust and be able to do things very quickly as the market changes. And like I said before, the market is moving so fast, so quick. Think about the technology changes of Wi-Fi 6 to Wi-Fi 6E to Wi-Fi 7. Oh my gosh, it's happening so quickly. Then we talk about the security aspects of going to, those old big pieces of honking hardware firewalls to where we sit today with virtualization and all of the different solutions around zero trust and secure access and all of these things, just moving so quick. And then again, top it off with AI. trying to stay out in front of AI is very difficult. But the ability for us to do this is because of the nimbleness of this organization, and we're so excited about the things that we're going to be able to do and continue to do and pull together very, very quickly.
It's almost like in a perfect storm. We see these big waves where the network's kind of stagnant, and then all of a sudden now they're getting dynamic. But what's happening here in this town, at least, one of my favorite podcasts is called "Feds at the Edge." And the govies, the federal government has a lot of devices at the edge. Brigadier General Heather Blackwell, I heard her at a talk 2 weeks ago, 3.2 million endpoints. I mean, you got to manage those now. So what's increasingly happening is that people are looking at maybe compute at the edge. Oh, so feds at the edge, compute at the edge, and there's a little thing in between. It's called the network. So if you want to have an application and maybe take advantage of computing at the edge, well, then you have to understand the dynamics of the network. I would think that's pretty in the priority there, huh?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I'll take us back again to the fabric. The fabric is really the basis for everything that we're able to do. So we have this concept of zero touch fabric. Take a switch out of the box, plug it in, it becomes part of the fabric. That fabric can extend from the data center into the campus, into the edge closet, across the WAN, over an SD-WAN connection, out to remote locations, be able to stand up networks quickly, securely. That's a key to this. And now being able to take those services and however you want to define that service, it's an application, it's edge compute, and deploy them wherever you want. So now if we have to stand up a temporary location, we go into a big arena and we have to in an emergency, a national emergency, have to stand up networking very, very quickly. It can happen. We don't have to worry about it. It's going to take us 2 weeks to be able to deploy a network, right? We can deploy this in the matter of hours. So that capability and that flexibility, especially for our federal customers, really unlocks a lot of potential where in the past, I think they kind of had the handcuffs on. My applications and my compute had to sit in the data center because that's the only place that I could deploy it and know that it was secure. Well, now we've taken those handcuffs off. You can deploy that anywhere you want across your entire network, knowing that it's secure and do what you need to do for the network, not try to make everything fit into your architecture. That's the biggest thing, right? We don't want to try to make the business fit into an architecture. We want the architecture to fit the business.
Like a bespoke suit, huh? You
There,
don't get one off the rack, you get a bespoke suit.
there you go.
I just think this whole concept of compute at the edge is really important, especially when you talk about, you know, extreme architecture and extreme networks here, because they're debating, well, should I run this routine here at in Japan, or should I bounce back to a data center somewhere? And this is going to be a pretty complicated formula. It's not just black and white. It's not like one car leaves Cleveland at 60 miles an hour, the other one leaves 80 miles an hour. Who gets to Chicago first? No, it's like, well, there's a lot of factors here. And one of the factors is the latency in the network. And what about the security? But on the other hand, if they can do computation at the end, it means they have a faster response. And so it goes into so many. And one of the aspects speak of faster response, bang, better constituent experience. Oh, this almost fits in with UI UX, doesn't it? I mean, if there's latency and trouble and insecurity, well, then no one's going to be happy.
Oh, absolutely. And as applications continue to grow and be more complex and use more data, pushing them farther out to the user, of course, you're going to get better response time. You're going to get a better user experience. It puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the network architects. How in the world am I ever going to do that? How do I extend a network from my data center out to a remote location securely and knowing that I can deploy an application out there so that the user experience for all of my customers is second to none. Again, the flexibility that we provide along with that security unlocks all of that potential. So now I'm not, I kind of take all of my existing, hey, this is how I used to design a network and really throw that away. The sky is the limit, and we're not bespoke to these rules of, oh, it has to look this way and it has to be core and aggregation and I have to have this hierarchy and my firewall has to sit here. Now it's really, we've been in this world of virtualization for so long. It just really is for us, it's second nature. The network is truly virtualized. I can really drop network anywhere that I want, and I can extend a network. So John, if I need to extend a network to your house, I can do it. I can do it securely, and I can drop an application server right under your desk, and we're good to go. Right? Very
Yeah.
easy, very simple, and I have visibility into it. I can manage it, and I have full purview into exactly what's going on. I can see exactly what traffic is coming in and out. Knowing that, we can prioritize traffic, all those kind of good things across, maybe low latency WAN links. The sky's the limit. We're so excited about the stuff that we're now able to do.
Well, Dan, you're sitting somewhere in Colorado recording this, and if you went down to the local coffee shop and said FedRAMP, people would think you're out of your mind or something. However, in Washington D.C., if you see FedRAMP, then all like the ears all go up like little dogs when they hear something. They go, "Whoa, FedRAMP! That costs a lot of money." Whoa, FedRAMP! That's a really a kind of a big deal. And I've
Yep.
read articles where, you know, Extreme Network can help companies in, getting ready for FedRAMP certification. I said, well, I don't. How does that work? I mean, that's the you want to make friends in DC. That's what you tell people. Hey, I can help you with a FedRAMP, make FedRAMP cheaper or easier. Then they'll buy you a coffee, Dan.
Yeah, that's so true, John. I mean, the number of certifications, the type of certifications just continue to increase. And again, it's really because security has become very prominent, right? I can build a network, but if that network's not secure, it doesn't really do me any good. So it's these are just absolutely hand in hand. And so yes, absolutely. We're walking down that path of FedRAMP, we're walking down the path of state ramp, all of the other things that are really common, FIPS, common criteria, DOD APL. And now we're taking this and we're taking it globally. So there's not only the certifications for the federal government, which actually do apply in a lot of other countries around the world. They look at us and say, "Oh, you're FIPS compliant. Great, that works." But other countries are now developing their own standards. So Japan has something called ISMAP, very similar to what we're doing here with FedRAMP. So a lot of things happening globally from a security perspective. And for us, security is not the afterthought. And when we talk about security here, we're talking about these types of certifications, right? This is not an afterthought like, oh, we should go do that. This is built in, this is programmatized within Extreme. So as we design and develop and bring solutions to market, they will be and are intrinsically secure from that perspective.
I was in Columbus, Ohio 3 weeks ago, and booming town, and Intel's putting some big money into Columbus, Ohio. And when I was at your website this morning, I saw the press release and Extreme Networks teams with Intel to drive AI centric product innovation. You mentioned them earlier.
Mhm.
What would
Absolutely.
Ron Burgundy say? It's kind of a big deal. I mean, Intel's not a small company. It's kind of a leading edge company there. And so what Intel can partner you with is imagine the analytics part of it. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we look at it, when you're a network infrastructure provider, you own the network piece. So you have all of that information. And as I mentioned earlier, the biggest part of this is not only having a view from the network down to the user, but having a view from the user up into the network. So what is John's experience on his laptop when he connects to an Extreme Wi-Fi 7 network? Well, I look at it from a network perspective and I can see that, oh, I think it's working great. You, on the other hand, are like, this is not working. My performance is, there's something wrong here. Now, partnering with Intel, we're able to pull data off of that and again, correlate that information. Now, a great example, and one of the use cases we do is, John, you're having a problem. You call the help desk. Hey, I'm having a wireless problem. The wireless network's bad, right? The performance is terrible. We look at it, we pull the data, we can see how you've roamed through the network, but then we pull the Intel data and find out, oh, John, here's an outdated driver. We need to update
Ah,
your wireless driver. And guess what? Bam, fixes your problem. Now it's like, oh, the wireless is great.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes the easy problems are the obvious ones there, aren't they? Yeah.
And that's one of the keys, right? When you look at all the different things and all the things happening within the industry and around AI and security and all these things, if we solve the simple problems, those are the things that cause the most pain for our customers. Yes, we want this concept of an entirely self-healing, self-driving network, all of these types of things. And we will get there. There's no doubt. And we'll get there very quickly. But today, solve my problem that when John calls the help desk, I need to troubleshoot John's issue easily and quickly. And if we can fix that right now, that's a major pain point. We've talked to thousands of customers, and the consensus is all around how do I troubleshoot problems inside of my network? That's what I spend a majority of my time doing, right? That
Yep.
goes back to that mean time to innocence. How do I
Right.
fix that? If I can fix that, all the other stuff, oh, that's just gravy. It's gravy on top,
Yeah.
man.
I'm taking notes here. Wi-Fi. It stands, of course, for wireless fidelity. And so if you want fidelity in your network, that's the goal, I would think, and part and parcel of drivers, of course, but there's enterprise architecture, security, all kinds of parts to that. So, what extreme things do you have planned for the next 5 years for extreme networks?
Oh,
Eh,
five years. That's a crystal ball.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say 5G. I didn't say Wi-Fi 7. I'd say 5 years.
Yeah.
He just throws down that microphone and walks away. No,
Uh,
I don't. Give me 5 weeks.
yeah, I think, when we look at what's happening, um, as you mentioned, we're at the inflection point, and there are certain inflection points, and we've been in the industry long enough to see a couple of these, a few of these. I think the next inflection point is really the transition of how we do things today, and really the thing that we're focused on is platformization. How do you pull together a platform? One of the things that we also have talked to a lot of customers or partners about is, look, we don't want to have to try to integrate and pull all these things together, right? We want you to do that for us. And so we want your platform to do this. We want to have a phenomenal user experience, a singular user experience. And when we look at what's happening with AI, several years ago, we started down this path with AI ops, which is really machine learning. But AI ops was very siloed. So we could do AI ops in one specific discipline, but not have it pervasive. When we look at platformization and what platformization will bring to our customers, it's really the ability to make AI pervasive across the network. So when we look at the next several years, there will be a significant transition in how we actually interface and how the users interface with the infrastructure. Now, the other thing is that we're also going through an inflection and transition point in the knowledge workers, right? We have a new generation of knowledge workers coming in, which have a different set of expectations. And so those expectations are about a simplified user experience, right? How do we pull all these things together? I think we look at AI as not just chatbots. Today, when you ask anyone about AI, they're gonna say, "Oh, Gemini or ChatGPT," right?
Mm,
That's only scratching the surface. And so the way that we will design, deploy, operate, manage network infrastructure will shift in a massive way over the next few years. The infrastructure will we still keep, of course, right? Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 8, and beyond. You look at the wired infrastructure, even though we have a wireless first mentality, there's still a wired infrastructure. I still have servers to plug in. I still have you know, critical types of IoT components to plug in. So there will always be that infrastructure. And of course, that will continue to grow, right? We're talking about 400 gig and 800 gig and all of this type of stuff. So that infrastructure will continue to evolve as it has. But really, the idea is how do we make it easy to deploy and manage and operate those networks? And those networks are multi-vendor. So there isn't one company that can do everything for everyone. So now how do we pull data together? How do we pull information and bring it into a data lake that AI can now act upon, that come from applications, that come from IoT devices, that come from other vendors, right? That's where I think things will change dramatically in the fact that today we have tremendous amount of information that sit in the network. Challenge that every one of us has, how do you pull that out and turn that data into information that's usable?
yeah.
That's the next step. That's the next evolution of where we're going.
Yeah. I thought maybe we'd be going above and beyond, but maybe that is above and beyond. So that's great.
From where we're at today, John, talk to a network operator today. That is way above and beyond. The ability to make that happen. Think about what an operator has to do today,
Right.
right? That concept of swivel chair management and doing the manual correlation, like, oh, well, this told me this, and this told me this, and this, and now I have to try to pull all these things together,
Yeah.
right? We're not gonna have to do that anymore, right? The network, the applications, the platforms will do that for us. So the things that we look at today as, wow, if you could just fix this for me, that would be great. That would be awesome, right? And so now we're taking that and now we're evolving that moving forward into things that people are not comfortable with today, right? That concept of the self-driving network. So don't tell me there's a problem. Tell me there was a problem. Tell me you fixed it. Don't tell me
Yeah.
that a switch went out or an AP went out. Open up a ticket with the vendor and have that hardware on my door the next morning so that I don't even have to think about it, right? I can just go out and deploy it. So, how we will streamline and how we will make people much more efficient, that is going above and beyond. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
Wow. Well, I hope around to see all those goodies and happen. And unfortunately, Dan, we're running out of time here. You have been listening to the Federal Tech Podcast with John Gilroy. I'd like to thank my guest, Dan DeBacker, Senior Vice President, Product Management at Extreme Networks.